Before we start shooting, I have to go to the correct camera settings. First, start by turning your camera on. Next, we're going to be shooting in manual, so make sure your dial is pointed to the M. Make sure that the focus on this side of your lens is on manual focus. We're going to change the ISO setting. In this corner you can see that it's set to auto. In order to change that, you need to press the ISO button and move the dial right here. Once you press the ISO button, you'll be able to see the menu on your screen. We're going to be shooting with a 100 ISO, which is used to shoot in light settings like daylight or outside scenes. Next, we're going to change the shutter speed. That is the f-stop right here. Press the AV button, and we're changing it to 4.5, which is another setting that you can use to shoot in highlighted situations. The f-stop determines the shutter speed. If the shutter is open too long, the photo may be overexposed. If the shutter is open for too short of a period of time, the photo may be underexposed. The white balance can be changed by pressing WB, which stands for white balance. We're going to be shooting with auto white balance today. Today we're going to be shooting with a 35mm lens. You can adjust the zoom by twisting the lens. 35mm is the closest to what the human eye sees. Next, we're going to go to Menu. We want to make sure that we're shooting in RAW and in large format. The RAW file will give you the highest quality photo. The JPEG can be used as a backup in case the RAW photo is lost. Next, if you look into your lens and press the shutter button halfway down, a green screen will appear at the bottom of your lens. You can adjust this so that the dial is in the center. If the dial is over one way or another, it may be underexposed or overexposed, so we want to make sure that it's in the center. Make sure you have your neck strap on so you don't drop your camera. Next, we're going to adjust the focus. This is at the tip of your lens, and you can rotate it back and forth to make sure that your image is clear. Next, pick something that you want to photograph. To review what you just took a picture of, you can press the play button, and the image appears on the screen. To remove your SIM card, slide open the card slot on the side of your camera. Then lightly push the SIM card in and out of your camera. It should be easy to remove. Next, close the flap. You can now insert your SIM card into the side of the computer. First, we're going to make a new folder for your images. My folder will be located in my hard drive. To right-click using a Mac computer, use the Control button on your keyboard and click. A drop-down screen will appear and select New Folder. You can title your new folder with something that relates to your images. My folder will be titled Photo Demo. Now that you inserted your SIM card, it will appear as an icon, usually in the upper right-hand corner, as seen here. Now we are going to open the Adobe Suite icon on the bottom taskbar and open Adobe Bridge, which is the yellow and brown icon with the letters BR. Once the program is open, go up to File and scroll down until you get to Get Photos from Camera. Once this is selected, another screen will come up. You can select where to get your images from. In this case, our SIM card is already selected. Now you can select the photos that you would like to download onto Bridge. Make sure you download both the RAW and the JPEG. You can choose where the photos will be saved to. This will be the folder that we just created. Next, select the titles of the images. It should read shot date, year, month, day, plus custom name. Change the plus number to +1. You can change the custom name to something that relates to your photos. Always preserve the file name XMP. This is the word or written form of your photograph. This file XMP should always accompany your photos if you're moving them from a folder to another one. Make sure Open to Adobe Bridge is checked off. Type your name into the creator and copyright. Click Get Media. In Adobe, you can select the image you'd like to edit by double-clicking. This will open the raw image into Photoshop RAW. Now, I'm not going to focus so much on RAW today, but I'm going to make a few corrections. First, the red areas are where we lost image data of our whites. If there are blue dots on our screen, this means that we lost our blacks in our photo. We can try to fix where we lost the image data of our whites by lowering the whites in our basic taskbar. Then we can play with the exposure of our photo. Next, I want to go to Enable Lens Correction. This corrects the lens distortion based on the type of camera we used. My camera is a Canon with an 18 to 55mm lens. Located at the bottom of your screen, you will see more information about your image. Make sure it reads Adobe RGB 1998. Make sure it reads 16-bit. 16-bit data gives you a higher variety of colors and a better quality image. Also, make sure your image is at 300 ppi. That means you have 300 pixels per inch. Now you can select Open Image. The first thing we are going to do is create our layers down in the right-hand corner of the screen. Create 2 new bins and label them Global and Local Corrections in this order. Global corrections edit the entire image, but local corrections edit a selected area. If you do local corrections before global corrections, the global corrections might override your local corrections. This is why we need to do the global corrections first. Next, add a levels layer. Add 2 curves and rename the first curves to Contrast. Rename the second curves to Color Correction. Lastly, add a hue and saturation layer. Do the same under your local corrections. Next, we are going to invert the layers in the local correction, making them black instead of white. To do this, you need to press Command-I on your keyboard. Make sure you do this for each layer. We're going to hide our local corrections for now. Always edit from the bottom layer up. Our Levels panel gives us a histogram of the data in our photo. A good histogram will have a curve as seen here, but a bad histogram will have curves hitting the walls. This means that the image data was lost, as we can see our whites in this image here are up against the wall. The next layer is contrast. You can create contrast in an image by creating an S-curve. To do this, click twice on your line and drag each point. We don't want the photo to have too much contrast, but we also do not want it to have too little either. It's nice to have a happy medium. The next layer is color correction. You can select red, green, or blue in this drop-down menu. Start with blue, then go to green, and then go to reds. But reds are usually a good color tone, so leave that layer alone unless needed. You can adjust the blue or the green layers by dragging one point either way. I like to drag these layers to the bottom right-hand corner, just a little bit. This gets rid of the extra greens and blues in your photo and brings out more of the red tones. Finally, the last layer is hue and saturation. The hue changes the color of an image, so we're going to leave that dial in the center. The saturation determines how vibrant the colors are. You can make an image too colorful, but you can also desaturate it to make it a black and white image. Last is the lightness, which adjusts the darkness and lightness of your image. Now that we're done with global corrections, we're going to move to local. To make our local corrections, we have to paint the area we want to edit. So since the layer is black, the brush tool needs to be white. You can change this on the left-hand side of your screen. Once you've painted an area on the levels layer, the histogram of the image data of the selected area will appear. I'll make the adjustments a little drastic so you can see where it's being changed. The same applies for contrast, color correction, and hue and saturation, so you'll need to paint on the areas that you'd like to edit for those also. Once you have finished editing your photo, you can save your image. Go to the upper left-hand corner of your screen, click File, Save, and a menu will appear. You can change the name of your image. I'm going to change part of mine to the first example. Make sure your format is Photoshop. This will ensure that your file has layers. Finally, click Save. You can exit out of Photoshop and it will bring you back to Bridge. I will show you the difference between the raw image and the edited one. And that's how you color correct an image.